And welcome into the Rant, everybody. That second half is going to be a good one. Minnesota takes the lead on Dallas 17-14 with the last-second field goal. Second quarter was good for Dallas. I'm excited to watch that thing. Welcome in. We have much to discuss. The Sooners survive against Iowa State. TU gets a big win over UCF. Arkansas makes a coaching change. We're going to get into all of that. Caden McFarland, Bill Haston, not with us tonight. He'll be back next week.
Nope. Oh.
My guy Jacob Toby. Is this the best thing you saw this week?
This is the best thing I saw this week. You know, Barstool Sports, started by a Boston guy, by the way, if you didn't know. That's my guy, Dave Portnoy. This is video of fans this weekend jumping and trying to break tables in half, and they are unsuccessful because there have been many attempts this season to break tables in half at tailgates, and they've been successful. This weekend was all about the unsuccessful attempts.
That was the best thing you saw.
To snap. Yeah, that's the best thing I saw this week, man. The best thing I saw. Isn't that great?
NFL fans, here's the best thing I saw. We're going to stay in the NFL. Tulsa kid Josh Jacobs on Thursday Night Football with this touchdown run, which would become the game winner as the Raiders beat the Chargers 26-24. The McLean grad is likely to be the offensive rookie of the year in the NFL. He is having a spectacular season. More than 800 yards now. He's been really, really good. Fits the game perfectly. You know, it happened so quickly for him. The sudden rise from, he was a backup at Alabama, really all of last year. But people said early on, this guy might be the best NFL back in the country.
Yeah.
And, hey, he's been worth the first-round pick for the Raiders so far. So we just continue to monitor that story and love it.
For sure. People at McLean must be happy. You know, I was there when he was drafted, and they just love the kid. So, good story.
It's good to have you called up from the minor leagues. Well, welcome to the big.
My opinions.
Welcome to the adult table.
They matter, people.
Welcome to the adult table, Jacob. All right, let's dive into OU 42, Iowa State 41. What in the wide world of sports happened?
Look at this, the last play.
A lot of students didn't even see this, at least not in person. People left because this game, it was 28-7. It was 35-14. It was 42-21 after 3 quarters. And the Sooners really just kind of melted down in the fourth. You were there, Jacob, last night. You shot that video we were looking at. Tell me about what the mood was like in the post-game press conference. How were these guys making sense of what went down last night?
They were pissed. They were pissed. I mean, of course, it's a win, and Lincoln Riley said it. A win is a win no matter how you get it, and that's fact, right?
Not the night to hear that, to be honest.
But it is true. So, but again, Jalen Hurts blamed it on himself, right? Kenneth Murray blamed it on himself. You know, Alex Grinch said it's unacceptable to tackle the way they did. I texted you and I said, how many missed tackles did they have? The stats aren't even out there yet, but I just said so many, too many missed tackles. And when I was filming in the fourth quarter, right, they had a 42-21 lead going into the fourth quarter. And I'm looking over at some of my other counterparts on the field, whether it be Nate Fakin from Channel 4 and OKC or some of the other guys, and we're just like...
Shout out to Nate on the Rant.
Yeah, shout out to Nate. We're like, is this comeback actually going to happen? Touchdown here by Brock Purdy, you know, touchdown there. And then it's like, okay, they may end up coming back in this game. They did, and I was just like, what? Like, we had to run down to the other end of the field to go film that last play because it was so important. They could have won the game.
It was wild. Doesn't happen to this Sooners team very often. No. Obviously, Iowa State's still the only team that's defeated Lincoln Riley on Owen Field. That was 2 years ago. Here's the thing. These guys match up better with OU than anybody in the conference right now. It's amazing to me that Iowa State has 4 losses already this year. It's a testament to just how hard it is to win ball games. But it is tough to knock them out. You know, if the OU offense or this OU team is kind of like the old Mike Tyson, where he just came at you and, you know, there were a whole bunch of 38-second knockouts or whatever, Iowa State is the kind, styles make fights, and they're the kind of guy who could hang in there and take some of those haymakers, and they just keep coming after you. And look, there's no doubt in my mind that OU got a little bit complacent. They thought this game was over just like the students that left thought this game was over. And we saw it in the fourth quarter as they gave up 20 points. Here's where I want to start tonight. I'm in no mood to talk playoffs. I don't want to talk about the college football playoff with this team. Absolutely, they have a chance. What Lincoln Riley said last night, he's right. If they blow the doors off of Baylor next week, and I do think they not only need to beat Baylor in Waco,
make a statement.
They need to look really good doing it, and I think they need to look really good beating everybody else the rest of the way. If they do that and they continue to win, this will mostly be forgotten. It really will. A month from now, this will mostly be forgotten, this performance against Iowa State, if they do that. So, yes, absolutely, they could make the playoff. They're not playing like a playoff team right now, and that's what I want to talk about. Not big picture, but let's zoom in and talk small picture. What has happened to this team that through 7 games, I would have put right there with the Ohio States, the Alabamas, the Clemsons, a half step behind because we all knew their defense wasn't going to make that kind of leap. But they were playing, they were taking teams out in a way that made you think, absolutely, I can see these guys in the playoffs. The last 2 games, not so much. And here's the number one takeaway. Alex Grinch is a really fine defensive coordinator. He's not a miracle worker. And I think that several things are, one, let's give them some credit, or injuries matter. Losing Caleb Kelly at the start of the year, eventually that's going to show up, and I think we're seeing it now. Losing John Michael Terry a few weeks ago, eventually it's going to show. I wonder if some of their issues stopping the run against both Kansas State and Iowa State had something to do with him not being on the field.
Sure.
Injuries matter. They weren't that deep to begin with, at least not with quality depth on that defensive side. And to lose some guys, I think we're beginning to see some of the issues. I don't want to say Alex Grinch's defense has been figured out, but people in the Big 12 now have seen, there are 8, 9 games of tape to look at, and I think some of those tendencies have been figured out a little bit. And when they're not able to scheme an advantage, boy, that tackling was bad. You know what I mean? That was the thing last night. When he did draw up something that was really good, a lot of times they missed the tackle. But there were a number of times where Iowa State beat him as well. They have good coaches too. So this defense is scrambling is the point. Can they get back to playing the way they did the first 7 games? I think the competition was too weak then for them to look like that again. I don't think that defense is coming back.
Okay. So you'd say that was their ceiling.
Although, you throw in Texas. Texas's offense is legit. So what they did against Texas in the Red River game, that was the defense's ceiling. Okay. Now, John Michael Terry played in that ball game, so you probably have to adjust it just a little bit there. Can they get back to that level? I'm going to say they can, but it's going to take a lot of work. You know what I mean? It's these next few weeks, not just the games on Saturday, but on the practice field, they're going to have to really make some hay. They're going to have to really improve from where they've been the last couple of weeks for sure.
As a Sooners fan, you cannot expect more than what they did through the first 7 games. You just can't. You mentioned the injuries. Remember when Delarian Turner-Yell went out against K-State as well? They lost their mojo on defense too. He was back this week. I don't know if he was 100% or not, but so the defense.
Some moments you wondered,
Yeah, for sure. And just this team, the first play actually, the first drive I think it was for Iowa State. Parnell Motley dropped an interception right in his hands, and this has happened, Caden. This has happened 3 to 4 times a game, and Motley made the game-winning play fine, but it's right in his hands.
I can't explain it. I saw highlights of Buki in high school with great hands making interceptions. Trey Brown played wide receiver at Union and caught the ball really smoothly. Like all of these guys have had opportunities where the ball is basically hitting them in the hands and they just, for whatever reason, can't make a play. You just wonder, I don't want to say snake bitten, but there's something. I think if the dam could just break, if they could just make a couple of these plays, maybe the thing would snowball. But it is not happening with regard to the takeaways.
And I think it's sort of a mental game right now. We talked to Pat Fields after the game, Tulsa guy, and he said, it's tough on your mental state when you don't make a play.
He was honest,
When you don't make another play. Yeah. Like it affects you down the line.
They were toast in the fourth quarter. That's why I'm surprised Iowa State didn't kick the extra point and say we're going to take our chances in overtime.
Usually, I guess, as a road team, that's not really what you do, though, right?
Yeah, right. Usually, I am for going for 2, even though I think I've been swayed by the analytics, which say you really are better off kicking the extra point and going to overtime, which really is a 50-50 proposition for the most part. But they did make the play at the very end, I suppose. Parnell Motley could have been called for pass interference, but he did make that play. So, look, the Sooners get the win, and what Lincoln Riley said is correct. But one final thought on the defense. They were so historically bad 1 year ago. We couldn't have possibly thought that they had actually made the kind of leap it appeared they had made through 6 or 7 games, right? Like, Impossible. They were always going to regress to the mean at least somewhat, and that's what we're seeing. That's why I say Alex Grinch is a fine coach, but he's not a miracle worker, and these guys were never going to play defense anything like an Ohio State and Alabama or Clemson. They're not ready for that. They got to recruit their way out of that. And not to mention, all the injuries. They losing both of the Kellys, Caleb and Jordan, early in the year, and now a couple other guys.
And Kelly
as
may
the
be
season's
back,
gone
right?
on. Yeah, at some point, yeah, he's out there on the practice field.
Yeah, I saw him in uniform.
At some point, he'll be out, and that'll help. But look, I think they match up a whole lot better with Baylor than they did Iowa State. This was the game that scared me the most. They've got a great opportunity coming. Just a couple other thoughts offensively. If you take away CeeDee Lamb's superhuman effort, what is this offense really, right? I mean, 42 points through 3 quarters against a really good Iowa State defense. The offense brought it for the most part yesterday. What we saw in the fourth quarter was really, really bad, and I'm just a little bit worried. First of all, the interception Jalen Hurts threw at the end of the game was like inexplicable stuff
he's done at OU.
And I think he's running the ball too much. I think they need to give to the running backs a little bit more. There are just some things going on with the offense that make me say it's not what it's been the last 2 years. Let's put it that way. It's really good, maybe still the best in the country, but I don't think the ceiling is what it was with Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray.
No, like I said, I mentioned talking to Nate throughout the whole game from Channel 4 and OKC, and we were saying Hurts has not been that effective running the ball tonight. I mean, he's had a couple big runs, he had a couple touchdowns, but
the efficiency's gone down as the year's gone on.
The efficiency has definitely gone down. Where's Ramondre Stevenson been? Remember, he was pretty good. I know he's, the third or fourth string back. I get that, but they were rotating backs in. And why can't Kennedy Brooks
get more than 15 carries?
Yeah.
Like, what are we saving him for? He is so efficient.
You think he's the best back on the team? Yeah.
No doubt.
Even though, people
by the way, that injury to Sermon looked really, really bad. I mean, like the kind of thing where you just assume I don't think he's going to be back. I mean, I've been wrong on that.
So then let's see more of Kennedy Brooks. Let's see more Ramondre Stevenson.
Lean on him heavily. Look, the offensive line.
Jeremiah Hall.
You lost the entire thing almost to the NFL 1 year ago. I mean, the offensive line couldn't possibly be at the same level they were a year ago, but they're still running the ball really effectively.
Yep.
With both Brooks and Hurts.
Lawrence Lane on Facebook says that game last night will not be forgotten.
Well,
in a good way or a bad way?
He's talking, I think, about what I said with regard to the playoff.
Well,
it won't be totally forgotten. He's right. It won't be totally forgotten, but I really think if you blow the doors off of Baylor in primetime with College game day there, and you just keep blowing teams out, several years ago they beat TCU in a game a whole lot like this. This was 2015, and they needed Stephen Parker, Jinx kid, to bat down a pass at the very end to win by 1 point, just like last night, 30-29. They ended up making the playoff, and that was only with, I think, one other game to play afterwards, the Bedlam game, I believe. Not totally forgotten, and certainly my point was with regard to the big picture in the playoff, but it will definitely not be forgotten with regard to some of the small picture stuff and some of the issues. Like, that stuff's got to get fixed, or there's no way they're making the playoff.
Sure.
If that stuff doesn't get fixed, I don't think they probably beat Baylor this week, and maybe they can eke out a win over Baylor. Undefeated teams lose in November. That happens all the time. Baylor probably should have lost in Cowtown yesterday. You might be able to not play your A game and still beat Baylor, but you won't go undefeated. You won't be able to beat Oklahoma State at the very end. You won't be able to win the Big 12 championship. One of those games, you're going to trip up if some of these issues continue to crop up.
And one more thing on Lincoln Riley postgame, he did say, not all championship teams are perfect throughout the whole season.
That's right.
You
have to survive when you don't bring your A game.
There are pitfalls. This game could definitely be a pitfall. You look back and say they survived that, they needed that. And this is what Jalen Hurts said after the game too. He said, God is putting this on us for some reason. He's making us go through this. We are feeling this certain way for a reason. So they could use that to their advantage. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, look. The thing about that is they played maybe their best game of the year.
That's what Riley said.
For a half. So it's true that nobody makes it through a season without having to survive a B or C game. But I'm not sure that's really what happened last night. I think they folded when things got tough after playing a really fine game for 3 quarters and getting complacent. And to me, that's indicative of a bigger problem than just, hey, we didn't have it tonight. Actually, you did have it. And Iowa State, I think, had more of an iron will than you. And they were able to get back in a game that they really shouldn't have been able to get back into. If you're a legit top 4, 5, or 6 team, right? So they're going to have to be better going forward, without a doubt. That's not just it was an off day. Now coming off a bye week, coming off a loss, this is a spot where you're supposed to be really, really good, and they were for several quarters. But I got a little bit complacent. What is there to say?
And let's say Iowa State doesn't even come back to make it a game that close in the fourth quarter. There were still concerns in the third quarter about the defense. So,
Yeah, no, that's true.
There would have been concerns regardless of the outcome.
All right, we have no concerns about what happened Friday night at 11th and Harvard because, man, I honestly don't know that I can remember feeling better for a group of kids that we cover locally than I did for Tulsa beating UCF Friday night. These guys should have beaten SMU, a top 25 team, still. They should have beaten Memphis, a top 20 team, still. They could have beaten Cincinnati on the road. A couple things go right.
Game.
They get another top 25 caliber team, and I think the best offense on their schedule coming to town Friday night, and they found a way, man. And without their quarterback for the second half, Zach Smith went down, Seth Boomer comes in. The defense holds this UCF team that was averaging, I believe, 46 points and 551 yards per game to 3 points in the second half. That dance party in the locker room was well-deserved, man.
It was. And you know what? It had to break at some point. The streak had to break. 5 games, It was enough. TU needed to see this win. They needed it so bad. And like you said, in the post-game locker room, it was lit. That's what the kids say. It was lit, dancing. And TU also released a video on Twitter of, this is how they celebrate each win. And there was a montage of Monty saying,
their social media
you got
team's
me,
doing
I
a
got
nice
you.
job with
You
that
got
stuff.
me, I got you.
That's how you market a program.
Exactly. This is what this team is about. Good to see it. Good for Seth Boomer, Collinsville kid, getting in there, driving the team down and scoring a touchdown.
Absolutely.
It was
TK Wilkerson, Skytook native.
Yeah. No, it was
Mari Brooks. I mean, a lot of local kids involved in this thing.
for sure. If they didn't get this win, it'd be a different story. But of course, snapping the 5-game streak, getting every bad energy as much as you could out of your system, they needed it.
I know there's some bottom line people out there who are going to say, look, this team's still 3-7. Why are you so sky high? Let me tell you something. There's a metric out there we retweeted today that has Tulsa playing the 3rd toughest schedule in all of college football this year. 3rd toughest. Everybody else on that list, on the top 20, with the exception of BYU, who plays a ridiculous schedule because they're independent now, everybody else is in one of the Power 5 leagues. Most of them in the SEC or Big Ten. For TU, smallest school in the country enrollment-wise, we know what their budget is compared to the SEC or Big Ten. I mean, TU's TV money for the last 20 years doesn't equal what an SEC school is going to bring in this year. Facilities, money, all that stuff. To be playing the schedule they're playing, and you should probably be 5-5 against it. Seriously, I don't care what the record says. I don't care what people on message boards say. I'm going to take my hat off to Phillip Montgomery in that program right now for the improvement they've made, even though it doesn't show up in the record. And in fact, it makes it more impressive that they've improved not only from 2018 to 2019, but each week through the year in 2019, that they've continued to improve even though they haven't been rewarded with victories. It's shown some real character, and I'm telling you, I'm going to hate to see Trevis Gibson go out the door. I'm going to hate to see Reggie Robinson go out the door. But NFL a lot of these kids who belong on the field with these top 25 teams they're facing, with these top-tier AAC teams, they're coming back next year. They have done a nice job recruiting to a profile and putting together some size and speed that we haven't seen. It's mostly on the defensive side of the ball I'm talking, at 11th and Harvard very often. So, yeah, the record doesn't show it. They're not going to be able to go to a bowl game. Nobody on the outside is going to look at this as a really successful season.
No.
But I see the improvement, and I think a lot of the people behind the scenes that matter at TU see the improvement as well. They need to finish strong, man, because there's a big, big difference between 5-7, which is very possible. Houston and East Carolina are tough games, but they're winnable games. Big difference between 5-7 or 3-9 or even 4-8. So they need to continue to play really well. They get the bye week and then Houston at home. They need to play well, and it would serve them well to win these final 2 games. But this team is much improved. My eyes tell me that regardless of what the scoreboard says.
There's a reason why coaches say what they say post-game. And I believe Phillip Montgomery when he says, we're a damn good football team. We're a dang good football team. I believe it when he says it after some of the losses that they had, because you just see how close they were in every one of these losses. I believed him. We knew what the schedule was coming in. We knew it would be a tough one. We'll see what they can do. East Carolina put up 51 on SMU, though? So we'll see how TU's defense can hold against East Carolina.
Bill's not here, but Jacob bringing the salty language, I don't want to say, not memoriam of Bill. He's just fine, but I don't know. In memory of Bill. He'll be back next week. All right, one final item. it is not a good time to be a fan of the Arkansas Razorbacks, folks. They lose to Western Kentucky, 45-19, and today the Chad Morris era comes to an end after, what, almost 2 seasons, I guess.
Almost.
Is that right?
December 2017, he was hired.
Just,
How quick was that?
Look, I'm stunned. I don't think I thought that he was going to come in there and just take the SEC West by storm by any means. I mean, look, you look at what he did at SMU, and it was a good job, not just a spectacular job. Maybe beat Tulsa once, but anyway. I definitely thought it would go better than this. I thought he was going to recruit the state of Texas, where he's from, at a pretty high level. I thought eventually they would get it going. I certainly thought in the short term they would score points. Even if they weren't able to win games, they would be competitive and score some points. And they aren't even close to competitive. Not just at an SEC West level. Like, they're not a good football team, period. No matter what conference in the country you put them, they wouldn't win the Sun Belt with this team.
They lost to San Jose State as well. That was pretty embarrassing. At home, they've lost both of these games we're talking about right now, Western Kentucky and San Jose State.
They're bad.
In Fayetteville, at home. They're 4-18 under Chad Morris in the SEC, I believe. Or, I'm sorry, overall record. Overall record, 4-18. They've lost 14 straight SEC games since he's been here, 17 overall before that coaching change.
They're still paying the buyout for Brett Bielema. I mean, you're talking about, people love to use the, I don't know, tire fire, dumpster fire.
Dumpster
like,
fire.
That's,
it's a dumpster fire.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
This isn't what it should be. They've competed in the SEC before. It was not very long ago. Bobby Petrino was not, he was winning 10, 11 games in the SEC. And before that, Houston Nutt had these guys competitive for, a decade or so. I still believe it can be done with the commitment they have there. They put $72,000 in there when you have a winner. The facilities are fantastic. Texas is, right next door.
Even Oklahoma.
There are some advantages. I know the SEC West has never been more brutal. Like, I get that. And I said Texas is right next door. That said, they're still at a recruiting disadvantage against just about everybody else in that division because that division is so good. But they obviously have to be better than this, and I don't know where you look for a surefire thing. Now, Memphis head coach Mike Norvell, who spent several years here in Tulsa as an assistant, is certainly going to be on their wish list. I wonder if he hasn't surpassed. I mean, that's an easy move from Memphis to Fayetteville. I mean, that's, just right down the road. He spent time here at Tulsa. He knows Texas and recruits Texas as well. He would make a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. But I wonder if his star hasn't gotten to the point where it wouldn't be a good career move for him to go to Arkansas because he's got a whole lot of better things potentially lined up. So I think it's in such a bad way right now that they're going to have a difficult time doing anything better than, I don't want to say a Hail Mary, but they're going to have to get lucky. They're not going to get a Matt Campbell, or I really think Mike Norvell's sort of past that thing. They're not going to get the kind of guy that makes you go, all right, I could see it. They're going to have to settle for the kind of guy that makes you go, boy, I hope so.
This is just me thinking out loud right off the top of my head. What if Grinch finishes strong on the defense and they take a look at Grinch? Well,
and so that brings up maybe a bigger question. What if they go with somebody with no head coaching experience, which would scare you in the SEC West, but gives you a chance? Notre Dame offensive coordinator Chip Long worked for Petrino and has some ties to the program. He's a guy who might make some sense. He was a runner-up, I believe, for the Broyles Award 1 year ago. Yeah, they might have to go that route. And OU did that with Bob Stoops 20 years ago or whatever it was. It can happen.
Bob Stoops to Arkansas.
Even at programs where it's tough to win. But at that school right now, I would rather have a proven head coach because of all it's going to take to get that thing going back uphill.
They need something. They're trying to reset their basketball team, reset their football team. When I think of Arkansas football, I think of, doing pretty well. Just coming from the East Coast, hearing about Arkansas football.
Won a national championship in 1964.
Yeah, you think of good football. Yeah. So and it's not been good. So
Broyles, Lou
pretty
Holtz.
honest.
It was good with Houston Nutt.
Yeah.
Bobby Petrino did it recently, but they got some issues. All right, so we have, who's kicking that field goal? Is that Minnesota? So Minnesota goes up 20-14. We're going to get you back to the NFL game, which is a good one. I'm excited to watch the rest of this. That's it for the rant. We'll be back next week to talk about OU going down to Waco to take on an undefeated Baylor.
Game day.
We're fired up for that. It just gets better and better in the month of November. Take care, everybody.